I mean, what the truth is of the Snatcher. Many in Hootfeast think me mad, but the children believe me. They have heard the old tales from their mothers and fathers, those sinister rhymes that speak of old mad Ub. A creature came out of the night to punish children for their misdeeds. Nonsense! But buried within the fables their parents tell them of Ub, there are truths to which I dare not speak. And the children of Hootfist about the one called Ub. Then let's go and find out more of Ub. And what else? Before the creature came to dwell at the wood's edge, it first made its home in the ruins of Avabarg. It was long after the Northmen abandoned the old keep, but long ago just the same. Yes, long before even my grandfather was born. In the depths of Avabarg, the creature hid for the only thing it feared, the light. But in the dark of the night it would creep forth. On some nights the creature would merely sit atop the walls of Abergard and peer across the river with its unblinking eyes. On others it would sneak across the Anduin, and through some devilry it would conceal itself from sight as it drew near our villages. My people were taken from their homes, from their beds, and always the trail led to Avabar. When my ancestors found gnawed bones in the depths of Avabarg, they could no longer deny what they feared. Our people were not only taken, they were devoured. I do not know what changed the minds of the creature, but it came to fear Avabarg, and so it abandoned the island. Yet its foul deeds are not forgotten to the stones of the old keep. The spirits of those who met their ends in Avabark still linger, and they cannot rest. Those must be those spirits I found earlier. Please help them find peace. Anyway, I told you I'd be sent back there. But, yes, sounds definitely like Gollum. Well, I suppose these people will not very much care that Gollum is now dead and departed and all. I'm sure if they really believed it was that particular melody of it about Ub, then fine, but I have a feeling they won't believe me. But anyway, hello there.
Whatever good fortune we had is gone now.
Will you lend me an ear, Pineleaf? I have suffered in silence since the ending of the war, but I cannot bear it any longer. My husband Barrowman fell at Avabarg in the final days of the war. We had pushed our foes from the walls of Hootvis, from the islet, and victory seemed certain, until Droxtaz came. Before either of us could loose an arrow at him, that terrible warg leapt forth and tore into Barrowman's throat. With his last strength, my husband slashed Droxtaz's flank and loosed his entrails. The beast withdrew into the catacombs of Avabark to die. Or so I thought. But I have seen his eyes glowing in the night. They stare at me from across the waters of the Anduin, from Avabarg. You must believe me. I promised Barrowmud that I would avenge him, but I can't go back to that place. I cannot face that creature again, and Droxtaz knows my shame and taunts me with it. I beg you, Pineleaf, slay Droxtaz and put out those terrible eyes. Whew. Well, that's nasty. Now, let's see. Hello there. What could you tell me about Ub? Yes, about Ub. Father says that if I lie to him, my hair will fall out like Ub's did. Hair falling out. Yep, sounds like Gollum to me. Just saying, it just sounds like Gollum. Hello there. What could you tell me about old Mad Ub? If I forget to bolt the door, Ub might take my little brother. Well, uh, well, I think there are some nasty creatures that might take him anyway if she fails to bolt the door. But, yep, it sounds like Gollum. Hello there. What can you tell me about old Mad Ub? Yes? If I don't finish my supper, Mother says I'll end up eating worms and grubs like old Mad Ub. Yep, sounds like Gollum. Alrighty. Uh, Hello there. Is there anything you could tell me about old Mad Ub? Don't leave the shutters unlatched on the cold night. Ub might steal your shoes for his scabby feet. Uh, yeah, all right. That's actually pretty tame compared to some of the other things that Ub does. Hello there. Is there anything you could tell me about old Mad Ub? Yeah? I don't want to talk about Ub. Mother says it brings bad luck. Well, considering all the things I've heard about Ub so far, I think that is pretty much to the point. Hello there. Is there anything you can tell me about old Mad Ub? I thought I saw Ub's eyes shining in the dark one night, but it was just some fireflies. Oh boy. Yeah. Hello there. Is there anything you can tell me about old Mad Ub? Oh, it's no good to go out after dark. Old Mad Ub might take me. Yeah, well, and I think there is one more child I need to speak to and find out what else I can about the legends of Old Man Ub. Anything you tell me about this legend? Old Man Ub? I'm too old for that story. Oh well. I suppose so. That's inevitable. Now let's see. All right, I spoke to the children, and I think I know who Old Man Ub is. Well, do you believe me, Pineleaf? If you knew as I do, you would. Well, I believe that there's an Old Man Ub. I believe it did all those things that are mentioned by the children. I believe that you may have even ran into him sometime when you were young, because that would be about the time Gollum came out of his cave again and did some wanderings. So you actually may have seen Old Man Ub. But I also believe that he fell into the middle of a volcano and destroyed a ring. You don't believe that bit. Oh well. Oh well. I suppose that means I need to go and head into that nasty dungeon with those nasty shadowy lights. Yuck. Now let's search for that warg and put some of these spirits to rest. This shadow light. Hopefully they're willing to take a little bit of rest and no longer be disturbed after all those years of torment. And hopefully I can find that warg that may be hiding in here. Whoopsie daisy. Hello. I hope you don't mind my visit. I was wondering if you could just be at peace after all these years of being in torment and all. Yeah. That's all I want to ask you, is for you to be at nice and restful peace. Uh, I know it doesn't feel very peaceful now, but I'm sure that when your spirit is resting, you'll be thanking me. Right, just thanking me. Maybe, or whatever happens. And now, oh boy. Now where's that warg? I haven't found a warg, but we do have these bones. Oh! Well, there's a warg here. Droxtas the Undying. Well, we'll see if he can at least get rid of that title. Yeah, all right, there you go. Yeah, be quiet, you. What? You're a nasty warg, I have to admit that. Yeah, that's what they all say, that's what they all say. Whew. Let's get out of here. I've dealt with that warg.
We have toiled for so long, and for what?
You've done what I could not. I could not bear to look upon that monstrous creature again. But thanks to you, my dear Baramud is avenged. There you go. And now, let's go and report on those spirits of the dead I took care of. That creature does not age as men do, Pineleaf. As many of my ancestors grew old and died, it only grew more gaunt and wicked. Avabarg remains a place of great sorrow, and I'm grateful that you put the spirits of my ancestors to rest. May they never be forgotten. Perhaps I misjudged you, Pineleaf. It's difficult for me to speak of it, but if you wish to hear the tale of the night I met Ubil, I will tell you. Ooh. Forgive me, Pineleaf. After all this time, the memory of that night still pains my heart. It is not old man Ub that the children of Hootvis should fear. It's Ubel, the Snatcher. Ubel the Snatcher. Is Ubel the Snatcher the same person as old man Ub? You might not know that, but I suspect it is.
Ubil the Snatcher. My father, Beorn, told me of that creature in my youth. He thought it a gangrel beast that crawled from some dark cleft in the night. For many years it crept unseen into the villages of the woodmen, and stole away their children to sate its hunger. But when it could hide no longer, the creature fled the Vales of Anduin, never to return.
Never to return. Well, it certainly won't return now. It was very long ago, Pineleaf. The Snatcher had vanished for hundreds of years, and my people had abandoned their vigil. I was a boy then, only days past the start of my 8th year. My sister Amelina was nigh on her 4th, but her birth had taken our mother. If only it had ended there. One night, I woke to a great clattering. The shutters were open, and Amelina was gone. Muddied footprints had been left in Amelina's bed, but no other sign of her remained. After that day, my father rarely spoke. In the mornings, he arose with the sun to search for Amelina, and when darkness fell, he would stand watch at the gates of Hootvis. And so it continued, until one night, not 1 month later. A scream awoke all of Hootvis. Ubil the Snatcher had come. Through my window I saw the light of his countless torches. Every woman still in their bedgrounds carried them. Another child had been snatched. Ubel's wickedness could not go unanswered again. Fearful of the light, the Snatcher screeched and sputtered as my people drove it out of Hootvis. But the Snatcher had claimed another life as it fled. Father was dead. When I learned what happened, I ran to my father's side. His throat had been torn open, gnawed by the wicked jaws of the Snatcher. I embraced him and wept. I did not understand. The Snatcher had fled in plain sight, and none of Hootvis pursued it. My father was dead, and for what? Sorrow turned to anger, and I ran into the home where my family had once lived. I tore through father's belongings, and had tears in my eyes, and it was not long before I found his dagger. If revenge was to be taken, I thought, it would have to be by my own hand. With father's dagger in my hand, I crept out of Hootvis into the woods. No one saw me leave. I wandered for what seemed like hours. I should have given up, but I didn't. My thoughts turned to my family I no longer had. I remembered that father had allowed me to accompany him on a hunt not long before Amelina was taken. A hart was grazing in the lowlands, unaware that my father's eyes were upon it. Father drew his bow, and though the creature must have sensed its peril, the arrow was loosed. The hart darted, but my father's arrow had flown true. It pierced the hart's hind leg, and the beast stumbled. The hart fled as fast as its hooves could bear it, but father carefully followed its uneven, bloody tracks. By the time we came upon it, the hart had collapsed in pain. Father slew it, that its suffering might be ended. But as my thoughts returned to that dreary night, I felt no such duty. In the pouring rain, I found the Snatcher's mud-slickened footprints. With as much taste as I could muster, I followed westward along the cliffs overlooking the Anduin. All right. Yeah. At the wood's edge, I found Ubil the Snatcher. In tales of old, it was said that Ubil had thin black hair and often wore clothing that was stolen from the whole Budland. This pallid creature I saw before me bore little resemblance to Ubil of old, but I knew it could be no other. I trembled in the cold rain, but there was no turning back. Father had to be avenged. I'm surprised he's still alive after that. And he survived that confrontation. What would father have thought of me? That fool I had been. I was no practiced warrior, no hunter of beasts. I was a boy swinging a dagger in the rain. The Snatcher twisted and slithered away from me like some sort of demon serpent. It cackled and sputtered at me, and with a single lunge it wrested the dagger from my hand. A cruel delight gleamed in the Snatcher's eyes as I flung my father's dagger into the Anduin. But there was no time to mourn its loss. The Snatcher bared his teeth with a dreadful, rotten grin. I did not wait for Ubo to strike again. I ran as fast as I could. Well, that was probably the most sensible thing that you could do at that moment. Yeah. And what happened after you ran? I ran and I ran and I ran. I darted behind bushes, leapt over fallen trunks and branches, and cast down anything that might slow the Snatcher's pursuit. My throat was raw and my legs burned, but it did not matter. I knew if I gave in, if I dared to grow weary, the Snatcher would kill me. Well, what if it did? Would I see Amelina again? And what of mother and father? What would one more moment of pain in my life be worth? The Snatcher suddenly stopped. For a moment it stood still as if transfixed by an unseen spirit. But then it began to speak. What a horrible voice it had! I choked between his words, but it seemed to be speaking to someone. As I watched it carried on its heated conversation, my breath returned to me. I began to hope that it had forgotten its pursuit. Well, yep, that's consistent with our friend. As if in answer, the Snatcher caught the spirit of my sight of my gaze. It flew into a frenzy, shrieking and thrashing madly at whatever unseen spirit stood before it. Ubo scrambled towards me with the hunger in its eyes. Without thought, I turned and ran. Whew. Yep. My legs gave out beneath me as I ran. It was over, I thought. I shut my eyes. The Snatcher wrapped fingers around my neck, but all of a sudden I heard a great roar. It was Bjorn! Fearing the Skin Changer's wrath, the Snatcher loosed its grip and fled cursing into the woods. Bjorn. I thought I was dead. When I opened my eyes, I saw that the Skin Changer, Bjorn, standing above me. It was a trick of the mind, some dying fantasy, I thought. But it wasn't. Bjorn lifted me from the ground and held me in his arms. He tore some cloth from his own breast, wrapped me in it, and he delivered me to Hutvis. Without a word, Bjorn left. I never saw him again. Oh, that was a horrible time. Many years later, I learned that Bjorn had died. It was said that the Snatcher was driven off by his kin, but the Snatcher lives longer than men, longer even than those with the gift of Bjorn. If ever I dare to lead Hutvis, how can I be certain that Ubo does not still lie in wait for me? Well, the good news is I don't think a survivor would fall into a volcano. I'm just saying that that's even much for the Snatcher, and yeah. What else would he have in store? What else can we see about the Snatcher? We have to find that out in the next episode of Pineleaf in the North Kingdoms.